Chapter 10. Back in England, Sir Mordred had plans of his own to take advantage of King Arthur's long absence from the country. He announced that the king had been killed in France, and that he had thus become the new king. Sir Mordred was also determined to marry Queen Guinevere. She pretended to agree to the marriage, but secretly left the court and went to London. She took over the Tower of London and filled it with knights who were loyal to her. She then told Sir Mordred that she would never marry him. Sir Mordred was furious and began a siege of the Tower of London. When news of the events in England reached King Arthur, he hurriedly brought his army back from France. He knew that he would have to fight Sir Mordred to free the Queen and to regain his kingdom. Sir Mordred marched his army to Dover, where the king was expected to land. His knights fought a great battle to prevent King Arthur's army from landing, and many people were killed on both sides. In the end, however, Sir Mordred was forced to retreat. Although Sir Gawain fought bravely alongside King Arthur, he was badly wounded in the fighting.
"I'm going to die,"
he told King Arthur.
"but there is something I want to tell you before I do. All of this trouble is my fault, because I would not forgive Sir Lancelot for the deaths of my brothers. Now, I see that I was wrong. I should have advised you to make peace with him, for he has always been loyal to you and to the Round Table."
Sir Gawain then called for ink and paper and wrote a letter to Sir Lancelot.
"You are the best knight in the world,"
he wrote,
"and you have always done what you thought was right. I want the world to know that I have been at fault in the war between us. Now I am dying, and I beg you to come home to England and help the king in his struggle against Sir Mordred."
Sir Gawain handed King Arthur the letter he had written. He then turned on his side and died. King Arthur sent Sir Gawain's letter to France, and then he ordered his army to pursue Sir Mordred's knights. The two armies faced each other, and everyone knew there would be a terrible battle between them to decide the fate of England. King Arthur had a dream in which he saw Sir Gawain standing in front of him. In his dream, Sir Gawain warned him not to fight the battle the next day.
"If you fight tomorrow,"
Sir Gawain advised,
"you will be killed. You must wait until Sir Lancelot arrives from France to help you."
The next morning, King Arthur decided to make a treaty with Sir Mordred to avoid fighting a battle that day. He suggested that he and Sir Mordred meet in front of the two armies to discuss the details of the treaty. They would each bring a guard of 14 knights.
"Watch carefully what happens,"
King Arthur told his knights.
"If you see any knight raise his sword, you can be sure that there is treachery among Sir Mordred's knights. If this happens, you must attack his army immediately."
King Arthur went out with his guard to meet Sir Mordred to discuss the peace treaty. While they were talking, a snake came out of the grass and bit one of the knights on the heel. Without thinking, the knight raised his sword to kill the snake. Both armies saw the raised sword, and each suspected the other of treachery. The commanders gave the word, and the two armies moved to the attack. When King Arthur saw that the two armies were moving towards each other, he rode back quickly to his own army with the 14 knights who made up his guard.
"It's too late to stop the battle now,"
he thought in despair. Chapter 11. The battle between the two armies lasted all day, and many knights were killed or badly wounded. King Arthur rode around the battlefield all day, looking for the treacherous Sir Mordred. As evening fell, the king looked about and saw that there were just 2 knights standing beside him. The rest were dead or wounded. Suddenly he saw Sir Mordred a short distance from him. Sir Mordred was standing alone, because all of his army had been destroyed.
"Give me my spear."
The king ordered the knights who were standing beside him.
"I can see Sir Mordred, the traitor, over there, and I'm going to kill him."
"Remember what Sir Gawain told you in your dream, sir,"
one of the knights reminded him.
"He told you that you would die if you fought against Sir Mordred today. Please come away from the battlefield. You can fight him another day."
But King Arthur was too angry to listen.
"I don't care whether I live or die,"
he said,
"so long as that traitor, who has destroyed all my knights, dies today."
The king seized his spear and ran towards Sir Mordred. He raised his sword high in the air and plunged it into Sir Mordred's side. Sir Mordred staggered, recovered himself for a moment, and brought his sword down onto the king's head. Then the traitor fell to the ground dead. King Arthur groaned and slid to the ground too. His 2 knights rushed to his side. There was blood flowing from the wound to his head.
"Help me! Take me away from here!"
King Arthur ordered them.
"I can't stand up."
The 2 knights lifted the king gently to his feet, but the effort was too great for one of them. His own wounds were very serious, and he dropped the king and fell to the ground.
"Now there are just 2 of us,"
King Arthur said sadly to the remaining knight.
"Help me, Sir Bedivere."
Sir Bedivere carried the king towards the lake and laid him down on the ground.
"Take Excalibur, my sword, and throw it into the water,"
the king commanded him. Sir Bedivere took the king's sword and walked to the edge of the lake. He did not want to throw the precious sword into the water, where it would be lost forever. So he hid it under a tree and returned to the king.
"What did you see when you threw the sword into the water?"
asked the king.
"I saw nothing but the wind and the waves,"
replied Sir Bedivere.
"You're not telling me the truth,"
King Arthur told him.
"Go and throw the sword into the lake, as I told you to."
Sir Bedivere went back to the lake and picked up Excalibur. Once again, however, he was reluctant to throw it into the water. He hid it for the second time, and then returned to the king.
"What did you see when you threw Excalibur into the water?"
King Arthur asked him again.
"I saw nothing but the wind and the waves, my lord,"
replied Sir Bedivere again. Now King Arthur was angry.
"Are you a traitor too?"
he cried weakly.
"Go again and do what I have commanded. You've already delayed too long, and I may die as a result."
Sir Bedivere went to the place where he had hidden Excalibur. He took hold of the sword and threw it as far as he could into the water. He watched as the sword flew through the air, and then he saw an arm come out of the water and catch it. Sir Bedivere ran excitedly back to the king.
"What did you see when you threw Excalibur into the water?"
King Arthur asked him again.
"I saw an arm come out of the water and catch the sword,"
Sir Bedivere told him.
"Carry me to the water's edge,"
the king said. Sir Bedivere lifted the king onto his back and carried him to the edge of the lake. They saw a boat coming towards them across the water. Inside the boat, there were several ladies and a queen.
"Now put me into the boat,"
commanded the king. Sir Bedivere lifted the king into the boat, and the ladies made him as comfortable as they could. The boat moved away from the edge of the lake. Sir Bedivere was heartbroken when he saw the king taken away from him. He was the last knight of the Round Table, and he was alone in the world.
"What about me?"
He cried in desperation.
What shall I do, my lord?
You must do as best you can.
He heard the king's voice tell him.
I am going into the Vale of Avalon to be cured of this terrible wound. But if you hear no more about me, then pray for me, Sir Bedivere.
Sir Bedivere walked away from the lake into the forest. He walked all night, and in the morning he came to a hermitage. He went into the chapel, and there he saw the hermit praying in front of a new tomb. Sir Bedivere was full of dread when he saw the tomb.
Whose tomb is that?
He asked the hermit. The hermit rose to his feet.
I don't know who is buried here,
He answered.
but I can guess. At midnight last night, some ladies came here with the body of a man. They offered me money to bury him, and a large sum of money to say prayers for his soul.
It's the king!
Cried Sir Bedivere in despair. Some people, however, do not believe that King Arthur died of his wounds. They think he was taken to the Vale of Avalon and was successfully cured of his injuries there. Other people say that he died, but that the words written on his tomb promised that he would return. Hic jacet Arturus, rex quondam, rexque futurus.